Okay, so let's talk about that feeling. That moment you realize, hey, I can understand pretty much anything in English now, you know? Movies, articles, instructions.
The comprehension is there.
Exactly. But then you go to actually speak, and it feels like wading through treacle, sort of.
Yeah, the words just don't come out smoothly. It's clunky.
It's so frustrating. And look, if that's you, you are definitely not alone.
Oh, absolutely not. It's incredibly common.
And it doesn't mean you're bad at English or broken or anything like that.
Not at all.
So today, we're going to do a deep dive into why that happens, this gap between understanding and speaking.
And crucially, what you can actually do about it. Actionable stuff.
Right. Because many learners think, well, the problem must be me. I must be failing somehow.
When really often the issue is more about the balance of how you're learning. Specifically, passive versus active learning.
Okay, passive versus active. Let's break that down.
Well, think about a lot of common study methods. Listening to things, reading, maybe memorizing vocabulary lists.
Consuming information.
Exactly. That builds your passive English, your understanding, which is vital, of course.
But speaking
is an active skill. It requires a completely different kind of practice. You have to, do it.
It's like, okay, imagine watching hours and hours of, say, amazing guitar players online.
Right. You'd understand the techniques, maybe appreciate the skill.
But would you suddenly be able to pick up a guitar and play like them?
Of course not. Understanding isn't the same as doing. It's a different pathway in the brain, essentially.
So the main point here isn't necessarily that you need more English words or grammar rules stuffed in your head.
Not always, no.
Yeah.
Often it's about needing more practice, actually using the English you already know, retrieving it, assembling it, saying it out loud.
Which brings us to something you mentioned earlier, this input trap.
Ah, yes. The input trap.
Sounds a bit ominous. What exactly is it? How does it stop us speaking?
Well, it's that tendency many learners have to just keep consuming more and more English, more shows, more podcasts, more books, thinking that is the main path to fluency.
And look, input is important, right? We need it.
Absolutely critical. Don't get me wrong. It builds your foundation, your vocabulary, your sense of the language, but
it's not enough on its own for speaking.
Exactly. It's only half of the puzzle. Think about going to the gym.
Okay.
Imagine you go to the gym every day, but you only ever watch other people working out.
Right, my muscles wouldn't grow much.
Precisely. You understand the exercises? Maybe perfectly. But your own muscles aren't getting stronger because you're not actually lifting the weights or doing the cardio.
So speaking English is like a muscle.
It really is.
Really?
A skill muscle, maybe. And if you don't use it, it stays weak. Or at least it doesn't develop the way you want it to.
That makes so much sense. We're strengthening the understanding muscle, but neglecting the speaking muscle.
You got it. And then when you try to use that underdeveloped speaking muscle, it feels hard, maybe awkward, and that can be really discouraging.
Yeah, it feeds into this whole other barrier, doesn't it? Which is fear.
Ah, yes. The fear factor, that's a big one we saw discussed.
Yes, definitely. The fear of making mistakes, sounding silly, getting corrected, people not understanding.
It's huge. It can paralyze learners.
Totally. But what's really interesting and maybe kind of freeing is reframing what fluency even is.
Exactly. So much research points away from this idea of perfection. Fluency isn't about having flawless grammar all the time.
It's not. Then what is it?
It's fundamentally about connection. Communication. Can you get your message across? Can people understand your ideas, your personality?
Right. People usually care more about what you're saying than if you use the perfect tense, don't they?
Absolutely. Minor errors, honestly, most people barely notice them, or they understand perfectly well anyway. Focusing too much on perfection actually hinders connection because it makes you hesitant.
That's such a good point. We get so hung up on being correct that we end up saying nothing at all.
And think about how we treat kids learning their first language.
Yeah.
If a toddler says something like, "Me want cookie," we don't jump down their throat about grammar.
No. You understand what they mean. You're probably just happy they're communicating. You might even cheer them on.
Exactly. We cheer for them. So the advice is often, start cheering for yourself too.
Be kinder to ourselves about it.
Yes. Adopt some self-compassion. See, mistakes not as failures, but as, like, signposts. They show you where you need a bit more practice. They're part of learning.
Okay, so shifting the mindset is key. Less perfectionism, more connection, more self-compassion.
Definitely. That helps lower the fear barrier.
Right. So we've got the passive-active gap, the input trap, the fear barrier. Let's get practical. What can people actually do, especially if they're learning alone, to practice speaking?
Okay, yeah, practical steps. There's some really effective techniques. One that comes up a lot is shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, what's involved?
It's pretty simple conceptually. You listen to a short bit of native English audio, maybe a sentence from a podcast, a line from a movie. Then you immediately try to repeat it out loud. But you're not just repeating the words. You're trying to copy everything.
Like the rhythm, the intonation.
Exactly. The speed, the melody of the sentence, the pauses, as close as you can get.
So it's training your mouth and ears to work together in that English rhythm.
Precisely. And the great thing is you don't need hours. Even just, say, 10 minutes of focused shadowing each day can make a noticeable difference over time.
10 minutes. That feels doable. Okay, what else?
Another one, and this might feel a bit weird at first,
Uh-oh. Go on.
is simply talking to yourself out loud in English.
Just narrating your life.
Kind of, yeah. Describe what you're doing. Okay, now I'm making coffee. I need to get the filter. Or talk about your plans. Tonight, I think I'll watch that movie. Or even just your thoughts or feelings about something.
I can see how that would force you to actually retrieve words and build sentences on the fly.
Right. It simulates conversation without the pressure of having someone else there listening and waiting. Low stakes practice.
Okay, maybe starting when no one else is home. What about recording yourself? I think I read that can be helpful.
Yes, definitely. Using your phone, maybe just record yourself talking for a minute or two about a topic, anything your day, a hobby, an opinion.
Yeah. Listen back. Cringes slightly.
And then listen back. Yeah, it can feel a bit awkward, but it's incredibly useful.
How so? What do you gain from that?
You get a more objective sense of how you actually sound. You can notice pronunciation issues, maybe where you hesitate or use filler words like and up too much.
Right, you can identify patterns.
Exactly. And crucially, it also helps you track progress. Listen to a recording from a month ago, then one from today. You'll likely hear improvement, and that's a massive confidence booster.
That makes sense. Seeing or hearing the progress. And for people who like tech, there are apps too, right?
Oh yeah, loads. Apps like LSA Speak or SpeechLink, for example, they use AI to give you specific feedback on your pronunciation.
So they can pinpoint sounds you're struggling with.
They offer targeted practice, can be a really good supplement.
Okay, so we have shadowing, talking to yourself, recording yourself, using apps, lots of tools. How do we build these into a routine? Because consistency seems key.
Absolutely. Consistency over intensity, almost always. The goal is to build sustainable habits.
Not like cramming for an exam.
Right. So a simple daily routine could look like this. Maybe in the morning, listen to a short podcast clip and shadow, say, 5 sentences. Just 5.
Okay, quick win.
Then maybe sometime in the afternoon, consciously decide to talk yourself through a task you're doing. Making lunch, tidying up, just a minute or two out loud.
Got it.
And then perhaps in the evening, record a quick 2-minute voice note summarizing your day or your thoughts on something you read or watched.
Morning, afternoon, evening, little bits adding up.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be perfect. You might miss a day. That's fine. The aim is consistency, not perfection.
Wow, I really like that framing. Not perfect, just consistent. It lowers the bar in a good way, makes it feel less daunting.
It does. Because small, consistent efforts compound over time.
So, wrapping this up then, if you're listening and feeling that frustration, understanding loads but struggling to speak, the big message is you're not stuck.
Not at all. It likely just means you need a shift in your approach.
A shift towards more doing, more speaking.
Yes. More active practice, less purely passive consumption, more courage to try, less fear of mistakes.
More focusing on connection, less on perfection.
You've got it. And honestly, you probably know more English, have a stronger foundation than you give yourself credit for.
You're likely closer to where you want to be than you think. You just need to start activating it, using your voice.
And the cool thing is, it creates a positive feedback loop. The more you speak, even if it's awkward at first,
The easier it gets,
the easier it gets, the more natural it feels,
Yeah.
the more confident you become.
which makes you want to speak more.
So the takeaway is pretty clear then.
I think so.
Stop waiting. Stop overthinking it. Start speaking. Even small steps, starting today. Every little bit genuinely helps. And hey, we'll be here exploring more ways to help you along the way.